my cafe lattes. It says so right here.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Seeds and Weeds podcast brought to you by Small House Farm. Are you a gardener, forager, an herbalist, maybe just a little plant curious? You've come to the right place. This is Seeds and Weeds. Howdy, friends. Welcome back to the show. Today, we are going to be digging into the herbs of winter. We got a lot of stuff we're going to be sharing with you. We're going to be talking about many of the plants that we can enjoy throughout these winter months to help us with stress and anxiety, maybe help us get a good night's sleep. Herbs for digestive health. We're going to be eating we're going to have many holiday feasts. So we're going to need herbs to help us through that. Herbs to nourish and support our immune system. We have so many recipes that we're going to share with you. For each of these herbs that we talk about, I think we've got recipes to share. And then at the end, Heather's going to dig into all about fire cider. She's going to share her recipe with us, how she makes the fire cider. It's the time of year for it. We got to have it. And she's going to help us make the fire cider. But before we dig into all of these things, Heather, what is the big news here at Small House Farm?
Oh my gosh, we have completed the project that we've kind of been hinting at all year long. We have entered the stage of, first stage of completion. And we got
stage one complete.
Yes. We're going to level up to that next stage, which won't actually happen. It'll happen throughout this next year and a half. But we just submitted a ginormous manuscript with a huge collection of photos.
So many photos. How many photos did you take?
I think it was over 350.
That's a lot of photos. So ginormous is the perfect word to describe this, I think, because is it enormous? No, it's bigger than that. Is it gigantic? Even larger than that. Ginormous is what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, it was a huge project for us. We put a lot of time and energy into it. And so we're really excited to continue to share more news as that progresses. But right now we submitted the manuscript and it actually won't even hit bookshelves until July of 2027. So that's another year and a half from now.
Yeah, it's amazing how much time goes on behind the scenes. After all the work that we've already done, how much work still needs to be done to get this book ready and out there for the public. It's a long time. It's a lot. There's a lot of people involved. It's a big team. So there's a lot going on. If you're following us at all on Patreon, you would have already got a little bit of news about this. There's some photos on there of us clinking wine glasses and having a good time celebrating because it was a lot of work. We're celebrating. We're getting ready for winter. That's what's happening now. But before we dig into it, of course, as always, let's do the Patreon shout outs. So these are the folks that have joined our community just since the last episode that have decided to get on board and be a part of our family over on Patreon there. So we've got Jennifer Disney, Lori Wagner, Tonda G, Alyssa Locke, Allison, Peggy Moore, Madison Layson, Michelle Hedgecock, Keely Kenny, and Stephanie Farver. Thank you all so much for being a part of our community. Your support means the world to us. It's the support of our Patreon community that allows us to do so many of the things that we do here at Small House Farm, including this podcast, is made possible by that financial support. So if you're listening and you love the podcast, you like the things that we do here, and you want to be a part of that, go check out our Patreon community. There's a lot of cool stuff going on there. There's a ton of recipes and information about gardening and herbalism and these boxes that we send out. There's just so much stuff going on. Of course, the link can be found down in the show notes. That's where we keep all the links for all the things that we talk about. And you can also just go to our website, which is seedsandweedspodcast.com, and find all sorts of information there as well.
All right, let's dive into these herbs of winter.
So now here in Michigan, we're not necessarily gardening, in the wintertime. So we're not going to be collecting a lot of fresh herbs, but we've got a lot of dried herbs in storage that we can turn to. We do have some plants that we have brought indoors that we're taking care of throughout the winter months, so we can harvest off of those sometimes. And there's plenty of herbs and spices in the kitchen cabinet that we can utilize. So I've tried to curate this list of herbs of winter, and it was fun to put this together because I wanted to think about all of the reasons we might turn to herbs in the winter. And I mentioned them at the top of the show, things like the stress and anxiety of the holidays, or having to go see our families, or all of these commitments that we have, or trying to get a good night's sleep, or trying to boost the mood. Improving the moods are really important. We're getting a lot less sunlight now. A lot of us might be feeling stressed out. It's hard to sometimes scrape together the cash to put on these celebrations that everybody expects, whatever it might be. We're eating a ton of rich foods. I mean, it's not winter yet, and I've already eaten a lot of cookies.
I mean, not only is the sun out less, but we're a lot more sedentary in these fall and winter months. So we're eating heavier foods. We're not moving as much. There's a lot of that herbs can help us with.
Absolutely. And of course, cold and flu season. So we're going to need some herbs to help, nourish and support our immune system. So as I was putting this list together, I was trying to think of herbs that obviously would be best for these types of scenarios. But what I discovered at the same time is this list of herbs are the quintessential flavors of winter. Obviously, right? It makes sense when you say it out loud, but it was fascinating to see these herbs. And I was like, oh, I know all of these from this time of year. They're in so many of the foods that we're about to eat. So incorporating these herbs in our food is the easiest way to work with them and to enjoy their benefits. But we can also turn them into teas and tinctures to help you get through.
Speaking of the flavors of winter, we just brewed a tea that I'm going to pour.
I'm excited about this tea. This is actually a blend that was in the first year's Patreon boxes, right?
Yeah. So the seasonal herb boxes that we give out, each quarter in 2023, when we did our first year of them, this was our winter tea blend. So smells pretty rich. It is cacao nibs, chicory, and carob.
Right.
Roasted chicory, roasted.
This is the chocolate.
Yes. So now we call it chocolate.
Yeah, chocolate.
Yeah. Let's taste it. Ooh.
Goodness
That's
gracious.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's got a chocolatey, but it's kind of got like a bitter aftertone. It's we also call it the adult hot chocolate. Because what you have to do with these really hard roots and bark from these plants is boil them for 10 or so minutes instead of just a tea bag that you would dip into your hot water. You actually have to take water and boil it for 10 minutes to get proper extraction.
Sure. So, this boiling process is going to help break down that cellular wall, the bark and the roots. To get a good extraction from them, we need to really soften them up. And by boiling, the boiling process is going to help with that. So we'll load the ingredients into a pot of water and I'll boil it. It's about 10 minutes, like you said, and then turn off the heat, put the lid on it and let it steep an additional 10 minutes. So really pull out those flavors. It's delicious. You could get the chocolate. It's got that bitterness on the back end. Like you said, you could possibly, if you're into it, you could put a little cream and sugar maybe in here, something to sweeten it up. I wouldn't need to, but some people might.
I actually really like cream in my coffee, but this doesn't even need it. Right now we're preparing for winter and we have all these dried herbs in storage and we need to make sure we're processing them and using them. One of the plants that we have an abundant amount of drying on screens right now is peppermint.
Oh my gosh, so much mint. Any of you that have grown mint before, you know that what starts off as a tidy, regular patch of mint will quickly become an unruly, incredible amount of mint.
And especially if you intentionally plant it all over the yard.
Yes, I did. Yes, I'll admit it. And it was totally worth it because I love it so much. So we do have a lot of mint, so we need to find many ways to use it. And mint, think about mint. When I was making this list, it was the first one that came to mind because it's great for digestion. It's antispasmodic. If you have, a stomach ache or if you're eating too much food, a little bit of peppermint tea is going to be really good for you there. But mint, that's a classic winter flavor. Everybody's good with the candy canes and the things.
Yeah, in the Herbs in Every Season book, we have a mint mojito recipe. This is actually a mocktail recipe, so it omits the alcohol, but obviously we can always add the alcohol in. Fresh mint, a little fresh ginger, some fresh lime juice, and just that sparkling water.
Yeah, it seems more times than not at these family gatherings there tends to be some sort of cocktail hour, and not everybody wants to have that alcohol, or younger people might want to participate. So this mint mocktail, this mojito mocktail is a nice way. And with that ginger in there, it's warming, that's also good for your stomach. Sometimes when we deal with mint, people will ask me, well, what type of mint do you recommend? If we think about the comparison between peppermint and spearmint, peppermint certainly is delicious and it's got a great flavor to it. But with its high menthol and menthol content, it's really actually the mint that I recommend for topical applications. If we're looking for pain relief, for sore muscles and that sort of thing, making a peppermint oil is really nice for that. And if I'm leaning towards something for indigestion and stomach upset, I actually recommend spearmint. You can interchange these if you need to, but if you have the opportunity to work with spearmint in your tea or in your mojito, it's going to be even better for these types of complaints we have this time of year.
Yeah, that sounds great. Well, and so while we're at it, we're making that mint mojito and we have the ginger, which ginger is our next herb that we want to talk about.
Yeah, well, this list almost made itself because I was going over that mojito recipe and it had ginger in it. And I was like, well, ginger is a great herb for indigestion and stomach upset. Then it made me think of ginger snap cookies. So ginger is really going to be nice for us if we're eating too much spicy foods or richly flavored foods, heavy sauces, something like that. Ginger is going to be nice for that. I like ginger in tea. You can use it fresh or dried. I'll just take a thumb of the ginger and just shave off a few pieces of it. And that makes a really, really nice cup of tea.
Yeah, no tea ball needed. I mean, just take that ginger, take a couple slices, throw it right in your hot water and drink that. You will be thrilled how much it helps your stomach feel better, maybe your head feel better, and it just gets you going.
If I was going to make a ginger tea for stomach complaints, I would also consider adding fennel to it. Fennel and ginger are going to be really good partners in that type of tea, not only for what they can do for us health-wise, but also flavor-wise. I think that they really help balance each other out nice. And then if I was going to be making a ginger tea specifically for cold and flu, I would combine it with Echinacea.
If I was going to be making a tea blend for my child, though, which I actually just made one the other day with that almost exact blend, I did add a little bit of chamomile. Now, my youngest kid really loves chamomile, so I was kind of trying to hide some of those more intense flavors. But chamomile also was a really good addition to that because it soothed him, it calmed him, it was kind of sweet and tastes a little honey. So it's just a nice addition to that digestive aid.
Absolutely. And that brings us right into the next herb on the list, actually, which is fennel. In the winter, most often, of course, we'd probably be dealing with fennel seed. Fennel medicinally is also really nice for a cough, sore throat. I would then combine it with thyme. Thyme is really nice as an expectorant to help with a cough. And then echinacea, again, for stimulating the immune system. I think that would make a really nice combination. But we could take this a little bit further. And not only could we brew that just simply into a tea and enjoy it, but we could take that tea and turn it into a syrup. And then we have a cough syrup that we could utilize as needed. And we could take it by the spoonful that way, or we could incorporate it into other drinks, into a tea if we wanted to. But a syrup would be a really nice way to work with that.
That sounds fun.
The next herb on our list here is going to be sage, which is, again, another herb that's perfect for when you're consuming rich foods. And sage is another ingredient that we see in so many of our holiday recipes. Sage is also good for cognitive function, memory, and that may not be a winter-specific need, but it's worth mentioning anyways. I think it's important. You'll often hear people talk about utilizing rosemary. Rosemary for remembrance is what they always say. But rosemary is actually a type of sage, right? Salvia rosmarinus. So sage and rosemary, we can combine them together, which is the flavor profile is fantastic. If you bring these herbs together, they really go well. And we could tincture that. And then this tincture we could take daily to really promote brain function and memory. It sounds like I probably need some right now.
So how do I make a tincture? If you could describe that real briefly for me.
Yeah, so the most basic way to make a tincture is known as the folk method. So what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a container, a quart jar, whatever it might be, and we're going to fill it up about halfway with dried herb. And in this case, our dried herb is a blend of two herbs. So it's going to be a quarter of each, right? So a quarter of sage and a quarter of rosemary is going to fill our jar up halfway, and then we're going to fill it up to the top with alcohol. Often we use vodka. 80 proof is going to be fine for something like this.
Do I have to use Everclear?
No, definitely don't use Everclear. Too strong. People ask that question a lot too. And if we're just dealing with something like simple like leaves and flowers, Everclear is way overkill. If I'm dealing with like resins and bark or something like that, sure, the higher alcohol content is important, but not necessarily in this situation. 80 proof vodka is going to be perfectly fine. We're going to cap that baby off. We're going to label it so we remember what it is. And you're going to put it away for 2 to 4 weeks and let it do its thing. And then we can strain it out. And I'm going to recommend, maybe a half to a full dropper full. You could do it every day. Get up in the morning, make it part of your routine. Take a few drops of that. You can put it in your tea or coffee or just take it and chase it.
Making a tincture is so easy, and you may be noticing that you have a lot of dried herbs from your summer harvest. And this is a great way to preserve them even longer and possibly give a great gift for your friends or family.
That's a great idea. Take the stuff you're learning here and put it to work. So the recipe that I've listed here that I wanted to mention that goes along with the sage is also from Herbs in Every Season. We're giving you all sorts of stuff out of the book just so you can have it. It is a shiitake lemon balm stuffing with sage. Yum.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, that's a lot. So let's see. Basically describe that we're going to take a loaf of bread. You're mentioning specifically sourdough bread, but you could use any kind of bread that you had at home.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of sourdough bread, but this is one of the fun things about this recipe and many of the recipes in Herbs in Every Season is that I kind of leave it open-ended so you can do your own interpretation of it, if you will. Like even right now on the spot while we're thinking about it, I'm thinking rye bread would be probably really good in this recipe.
Yeah.
So again, in the kitchen, there's no hard and fast rules here, so we can just really have fun with these flavors. But it's a really basic recipe. So you're going to take your bread and you cut it up into cubes and we put it in the oven for a little while on a low heat to dry it out. And then we're going to take shiitake mushrooms and lemon balm, some onions, some sage. We're going to cook that down a little bit until the onions are translucent, so maybe 5 or so minutes, and you get a good cook on those. And then we're going to put some chicken stock in there, right? And we're going to mix that together, take it off the heat. Then we're going to toss our breadcrumbs in there so they can really soak up all those flavors and soak up that broth, mix it in really good with those herbs and the mushrooms, and then we're going to put it out on a baking sheet and bake it. Of course, traditionally, you'd see a stuffing like this probably like in a turkey. So there's a number of steps, I suppose, here, and I really just kind of condensed that. So I'm going to take this recipe and I'm going to post it over in our Patreon community. Or if you already own a copy of Herbs in Every Season, then you just have to turn to page 92. And the whole recipe is right there as well.
That brings us to another quintessential winter spice, which is cinnamon.
Yeah, I mean, cinnamon, winter, hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's warming, it's soothing, it's really going to do the things that we need herbs to be doing for us this time of year. Put a little cinnamon in the hot cocoa is nice, a little sprinkle of cinnamon in the coffee. You put cinnamon on your apple pies, your pumpkin pies, you put it in the cookies. How about some cinnamon over roasted carrots? Put some apples in the oven. Apples and carrots together in the oven would be fantastic with a little bit of cinnamon. Medicinally, we'll often see cinnamon utilized topically for pain relief. If you think about the warming effect that it has even when you ingest it, you think about that warmingness on your body, like for soothing the muscles and taking pain away. So we can infuse cinnamon in oil.
So would I use cinnamon sticks or cinnamon powder? Like how would I infuse that oil with the cinnamon?
That's a great question. So I would use cinnamon sticks broken into pieces. You could use cinnamon chips if you had that available to you. You could use a cinnamon powder, but it's just going to be really difficult to strain that out of the oil later.
If you had like one of those cinching tea bags or some sort of kind of
muslin sack.
Muslin bag, you could put the cinnamon in that and then put it in the oil.
Absolutely.
And let it infuse. Then it wouldn't be as hard to get out later.
So if we think about that anti-inflammatory action that the cinnamon would have topically, we could think about that internally as well. We could make a very nice soothing tea from cinnamon. Again, utilizing the chips or the broken sticks or whatever it might be. The sticks, they call them quills is the term for it. And it's essentially, it's the bark from the cinnamon plant is what cinnamon really is. Let's brew this. Let's combine it with spearmint. We've talked about spearmint's really good for the stomach. Let's combine it with some spearmint and some violet leaves and make this into a brew that's really nice for sore throats and other winter ailments. So the violet leaf is mucinogenic. So it's going to kind of get slimy, right? So it makes like this coating. Cinnamon will tend to do that a little bit as well. So we get a really nice warming, soothing beverage that'll coat the throat and really help with the inflammation and pain that you might have from a sore throat, or if you're doing a lot of coughing or whatever it might be. Cinnamon's going to be really nice for that. But to make this brew, now this is a 2-step process. So, and this can come right back to this tea that we're drinking right now. This chocolate is the boiling process that we had to do with this tea to break it down to extract the good flavors from the cacao nibs. That's something that we may want to do as well with the cinnamon, being a bark, especially if we're trying to use it medicinally. If we're making a cinnamon tea that we're just going to drink and enjoy, just putting the cinnamon in a tea bag is going to really infuse a nice cinnamon flavor into things. But if we want to get a good extraction from it medicinally, we're going to want to boil those parts of the plants. But then we're also utilizing spearmint and violet leaves, and we don't need to boil those by any means. So step number 1 is putting the cinnamon chips in the water and boiling it, giving it a good 5 to 10 minutes to simmer to really break that down and extract it. Then turn off the heat, throw the other herbs in there, and then allow that to steep together. So that's kind of a 2-step process. And if we wanted to, we could take it even further and then turn that into a syrup as well.
So another one on our list is Echinacea, which we now have mentioned many times, but Echinacea is our go-to for immune system support.
Sure. Now, most people are probably familiar with the Echinacea root. It's the part of the plant that we're going to use, and we're going to be doing an Echinacea root tincture. that seems to be the most common, right? And that's totally cool. That's a simple way to utilize this plant. It really nourishes, strengthens, and supports the immune system. So it's a wonderful herb to work with during cold and flu season. But we've been talking about utilizing it in tea, a number of examples here. And in that case, we're often going to use the leaf. All the aerial portions of the Echinacea plant, so the stem and the leaf and the flower, are all great for the immune system as well. And they make a nice tea. I prefer the flavor of the Echinacea leaf in a tea. It's a little sweeter.
But I actually really like just plain Echinacea tea. I think it has a really nice flavor. And that's one thing we teach in a lot of our herbal tea tasting classes is understanding what each individual herb actually tastes like without honey, without sweeteners. Like, have you made a cup of tea of Echinacea, or have you made a cup of sage tea or fennel tea? Like, do that and make notes and make observations of those teas so that you can then understand. It'll help you then make blends later a lot easier when you really understand what that flavor of that herb is.
Well, that's so important, to take the time to get to know each plant individually like that. And you're right, Echinacea leaf tea by itself is pretty good. I love that you mentioned those tea tasting workshops that we do because they're super fun, but it's like the perfect transition into the next herb on the list here, which is garlic. Because we always recommend garlic tea at these things, and to see people's faces, we bring garlic so people can put it in their tea if they want it, and it's always like such a shocker.
But we drink it a lot around here at Small House Farm, and actually we've even convinced our kids to really get into it. So whenever we're not feeling well, we kind of reach right for our garlic. A fresh clove of garlic is kind of the first thing we might try to help ourselves with, and then progress from there with either tea or adding more to our food, especially if we're just, actively coming down with the sickness.
For sure. And I mean, I think that might be the easiest way for folks to incorporate garlic in their life is to add it to the food. This time of year, just add more garlic to your food. Everything. Whatever recipe you are following, double the garlic. Add more garlic. Add more garlic. And the more garlic you add, the happier you're going to be. Right? That seems to be like the ratio there of garlic to happiness is certainly 1-to-1. So we've shared a lot of garlic tea recipes over the years, even here on the show. We're always doing garlic tea in some form. We're really trying to put that out there into the world. The recipe that we shared in Herbs in Every Season, really basic. It is garlic, and then we have teamed it up with nettles and spearmint again. And that's quite a good combo there. I love nettles for so many different things. Stinging nettles, urtica dioica, so nice for almost everything. Nettles is good. But for nourishing the body to help it battle cold and flu, there's nothing better than a combo of nettles and garlic.
Okay, so the last herb on our list is actually not an herb at all.
It's not even a plant. It's a mushroom. It is shiitake mushrooms, as a matter of fact. We've been growing them on logs here at Small House for a very long time. We made some videos about growing mushrooms on logs. It was years ago for YouTube, and those videos get a ton of traction still. People really like to see them. I'll link them. I've probably linked to them before. It is definitely, I'm going to say in quotation marks, an herb that we want to work with in the wintertime. The thing it can do the most for us is offer us vitamin D. We're getting so much less sunshine in the winter, and the seasonal affective disorder the people are going to have from that, everybody starts to get bummed out when there's just not as much sunshine because of this lack of vitamin D. And there's a few different ways that we could do that. Of course, mushroom tincture is probably the most convenient as far as application goes. It's really quick and easy to take a mushroom tincture. The process for making a mushroom tincture is to really get the most bang for your buck with the mushroom is a double extraction process. So the reason for this is some of the things that are in a mushroom are alcohol soluble. Some of the things that are in mushrooms are water soluble. So to get the most potent extract, we really want to extract with alcohol first, and then take those same mushrooms, let's just make it a tincture like we described. So we're going to do the tincture process. When we strain it out, squeeze all the alcohol out of those mushrooms, and then put those mushrooms in water and give them a slow boiling process like we've talked about with a couple of herbs, and then combine the alcohol and water together at the end. And that's going to be the strongest way to work with these mushrooms. We're going to be able to pull out the most beneficial compounds from the plant material that way. And then one of the recipes that I thought would be fun to share for the shiitake is we have done a shiitake chai. Some of the inspiration for that for me was the tea blend that you made, I'm going to guess for the patrons, that was sort of a chai variation as well.
Yeah, that was an autumn tea blend that we also made in that first year, 2023. But it was black tea, turmeric, black peppercorns, orange peel.
Now, are those teas available on the website too?
Yeah, I think all the ones that we've mentioned that are blends from past Patreon boxes are available on the website.
Oh my gosh. And you know what that means? That means I'm going to put a link to it down in the show notes. So if you're interested, you can go check it out. As many herbalists know, this time of year traditionally is the time of year that we start making our fire cider for ourselves, for our family, for our communities. This is a nourishing blend of botanicals infused in vinegar. One of the cool things about fire cider is it is as unique as the maker. Each person makes a fire cider that is an expression of who they are and the herbs that they work with. And I've seen so many different types of fire cider over the years. Obviously, there's some similarities. There's some things that make a fire cider. But aside from that, it is open for all this expression, all of this fun, different ways that you can experiment with flavors and work with the plants that happen to be abundant to you that season. Heather has made some fantastic fire ciders, as a matter of fact. She had made a video about fire cider on YouTube a while back. It is one of our most popular videos.
Hi, this is Heather from Small House. I was just about to make a batch of fire cider. Thought you guys might want to see how I do it.
It's been a couple years it's been out there, and so many people have watched this video, and everybody leaves their comment about how they make it, you know, and their herbs and the way that they like to do. And it's so cool to scroll through that and see all of the variations of the fire ciders.
Well, we made that video in the middle of the pandemic, which obviously was, super topical in that moment. But I typically like to start putting the fire cider together at the beginning of fall, because it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks for it to kind of, brew and get ready. I think for the most part, most fire ciders are traditionally made with apple cider vinegar. But I have seen other people's recipes also use white vinegar. And sometimes I like to blend the two of them. It kind of cuts down. Apple cider vinegar can be really strong, super flavorful. So sometimes I like to cut it with a little white vinegar just to kind of bring down the flavor of that just a little bit so that some of these other flavors can shine. So we got our vinegar, and now we just have to gather our ingredients that we're going to infuse into the vinegar. And like Ben said, this could be what's around your farm, what's available to you, but there's a list of very traditional herbs that people like to use. Obviously, cayenne pepper, that kind of comes with this play on fire cider. So it's hot and spicy from the cayenne pepper. And then a lot of people love to use turmeric and cinnamon and black pepper. And then we always want some herbs like rosemary or thyme, because those things are great for your immune system, like we mentioned earlier. And ginger and garlic. Those are perfect for that spicy fire that we're looking for. And then a lot of times people like to use citrus. I like to literally take an orange, cut it into quarters and squeeze a little bit, but then drop the whole thing into the fire cider. Same thing with the lemon. You could add limes, add probably a whole onion to a gallon. And we're just going to let it sit for a couple weeks. Like I said, it's going to do its thing, and you're going to come back to it and strain it out. Add some honey. A lot of times people add honey at different stages. I like to add it as I'm adding everything else and letting it sit there. But some people have said, okay, I like to do my herbs, strain it out, then add the honey. So whatever floats your boat is totally great.
So once we strain it out and then we're ready to use it or enjoy it, how do you recommend taking it?
Most people say, well, you're going to start with either a teaspoon to a tablespoon, depending on how experienced you are. So let's first start with like a half a teaspoon and take that maybe once or twice a day. If you're just trying to keep your immune system up, you can start with a lower amount. If you are actively sick or getting sicker, then up that. You could take that every couple hours. You could take a teaspoon every couple hours. But as you get more used to the flavor, you may even increase that teaspoon, a day to a tablespoon a day.
Okay, so I love the flavor. Every variation that you've made of it checks all the boxes for me. It's tangy, it's spicy, it's herbaceous, it's doing everything. I love it. I like maybe like a half a shot glass.
Yeah.
That's okay, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Too much is not an issue. But actually, it is really good for kids too. And it's a great way to get herbs into their system. So if you don't like it straight like that, then add it to a glass of water, a cup of tea. Yeah, dilute it. So if I were to add a teaspoon to a large glass of water and then drink that whole glass of water within a short period of time, I will still get that, that same benefit of that boost of botanicals.
Sounds fantastic. And this is something that we could start making now. and have ready for winter. You mentioned that you like to start at the beginning of fall, but it's still not too late if we wanted to get going with it.
Oh, it's definitely not too late. And most of these plants are easy to gather from the grocery store if you haven't already. And right now you could still have time to get it brewing for a holiday gift.
Ooh, I love that idea too. Well, there you go, and here we are at the end of yet another show together. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Remember, if you enjoyed the podcast, you can always show your support by joining our community over on Patreon. You can find a link to that and so much more at seedsandweedspodcast.com. This episode was edited and produced by all of us here at Small House Farm. Happy winter, friends, and we'll see you next time.
They're making faces at me because I've had a couple of cafe lattes, but I'm entitled to them. I can have as many cafe lattes as I want. They're delicious. My pleasure. Well, I feel like I'm talking a little faster, but it's very hard to tell. Well, I got things to do. I'll see you later. Bye.
Support for the Seeds and Weeds podcast comes from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. Baker Creek offers America's largest selection of heirloom and open-pollinated seed varieties from around the world, and right here at home. For more than 25 years, saving, sharing, and celebrating heirloom seeds has been their mission and their passion. Find out more at rareseeds.com.